Before you watch the video that I shot today, I just want to apologize for scratchy microphone noises. I talk with my hands, and sometimes my hands were too close to the microphone, were touching the microphone. So, there are bits where you hear that scratchy microphone business, and I apologize for that. I also want to apologize to Wendy, who I called Cindy once before we started filming, and thankfully she corrected me. I thank you, Wendy, for that. The second time we were already underway with filming, and I called her Cindy again. So I super apologize for that, Wendy. And the reason I was calling her Cindy occasionally is because the quilt shop that I frequented, it was my favorite quilt shop. It was the first one I started buying oodles of fabric from. The owner of that shop was Cindy, and it was through Cindy that I got connected to Wendy. So Cindy was heavily in my mind today, I guess, and so I apologize, Wendy, for calling you Cindy. And sorry for the scratchy noise. All right, without further ado, let me take you to Wendy. Hello there. I am Suzanne from Making It in Maine, and I am in Bath, Maine today with Wendy. I have been dying to come interview her, and finally the stars are aligned. Wait for it. The third time I called Wendy, Cindy is coming right up. Wendy was so kind and shared a funny story about how she went with another woman to Cindy's quilt shop once, and after they left the shop, the woman kept calling Wendy Cindy. So thanks for sharing that, Wendy. Yeah, I guess we all make blunders with our speech. Our brains and our tongues get jumbled up at times. I know mine does a lot.
That sounds good.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I know my viewers are going to love this interview. So my channel is Making It in Maine. What does Making It in Maine mean to you?
Well, being a quilter and a craft person in particular, it means making it, literally making something here in Maine. It does not mean success of making something in Maine. It's literally sitting in my chair and making something in Maine.
Lovely, lovely. And are there other makers in your family?
My mother was an artist. She did mostly watercolors. She made all of her clothes, curtains, all that kind of thing, but she was not a quilter. I actually learned quilting from my next door neighbor who was in her 80s, and she had made hundreds and hundreds of quilts.
So you learned from her.
I did. I learned particulars from her, but my mom always sewed, but she just wasn't a quilter. She said she didn't have the patience. She had 6 kids. I think she didn't have the time.
Yeah, right. And so what is your earliest memory of putting thread to fabric?
I made my first quilt at 9.
Wow. Do you still have it?
No, I wish. I have the quilt I made in 1978. That's about the earliest one I have that I made for my husband for when we got married. But I made doll clothes for my sisters. I was not a doll person. I had horses, and there isn't much you can, fabric wise, you can make for a horse. But I did do some doll clothes before the quilt. But so I guess 6. I was 6 maybe when I first started with the needle and thread.
Nice, nice.
Yep, seems like I never...
So you've been making quilts for
a long time. 1965.
Wow.
So
Nice.
whatever. So, oh gosh, that's 60 years. Ah, 60 years.
Who's counting? Who's keeping track? What is your favorite time of the day to sew?
Well, my favorite time of the day is morning. So I would guess I would have to say morning, although I literally, now that I'm retired, quilt whenever I can. So, but I literally, even when I was working, I would get up at 4 a.m. Yeah,
Wow.
I know, and quilt for an hour or two before I'd go to work. And now I can just, I'm actually don't seem like I don't get as much done now that I'm retired because I can quilt anytime. But
yeah, I think a lot of people say that. And so what time do you get up?
Now I usually get up around 5:30. So I'm a morning person.
I'm a morning person too, though sometimes it's harder to get out of bed. Even though I want to be up early, sometimes it's hard to.
But I have trouble in the spring when it starts to get light in the morning because I really like getting up in the dark.
Oh, really?
I love it, and I love watching the sun come up. And then in the summer I don't do as much quilting probably as I do in the winter. Winter's my favorite season. Go figure.
Let's see. Have you ever made your own quilt design? Have you ever designed a quilt?
Almost always.
Wow. Yeah. See, I am so impressed by that because I am such a pattern follower, recipe follower.
In fact, I never buy patterns, and I didn't even use other people's patterns until I got onto the internet, and I did a lot of sew-alongs. And even the sew-alongs that I do, I always modify.
Tweak, yeah. Wow, I admire that.
And now that, with copyright laws and everything, I prefer to not have to deal with that when I enter a show or something, so I can say, yes, it's mine. I don't have to worry about asking someone.
And that was going to be another question. Have you entered quilts into shows? And so the answer is yes.
Many
and
times.
I can. Oh, that says horse.
That's horses.
Okay,
but the other room is. Well, you'll see some. Yes, I have entered and I've won in national.
Wow.
Shows, but I don't do it much anymore. I don't like the shipping part, and
I think that would be so scary. Like, what if it got lost?
It is.
I would be terrified.
I actually, all of my big quilts are insured, and I have fine arts policy, and I did actually lose one once, but we found it years later.
Years later.
So I had to reimburse the insurance company because they did, it was a long story. So I called and I said, I have good news and bad news. I owe you money, but I found my quilt.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, in sending a quilt to my granddaughter, it's no prize or anything like that, but I like, what would I do if it get lost? It would just be
it's scary, which is one of the reasons I don't do it anymore.
I can see that. So do you partake in any other handcrafts besides quilting?
I do a little needle felting, wool needle felting. I draw occasionally, but quilting is really, I make dolls for nieces, nephews, etc. But I haven't done that in a while either.
So no knitting or crochet.
I do not knit.
Or
my mother was left-handed, and she swore she could never teach me how to knit. Well, she had 3 girls, and they both knit. I'm not a knitter. But really, it was just she couldn't teach me because I had this attitude problem. And I'm also pretty tense when I do things, and I think I started to knit, and I it looked like, so no, I don't knit.
All right. So before we look around and see all the beauty, I'd love for you to tell my viewers what Wendy has a blog, and you can visit it and see many other things probably that you're not going to see today, and just follow along with her. So tell everyone what your blog is.
The name is The Constant Quilter, which is pretty much what I do. There used to be a fabric store in New Hampshire called that, but so that'll come up sometimes, but it's Wendy Caton, Caton Reed. You can Google that, or you can just go right onto the Constant Quilter blog, and you'll see it there.
theconstantquilter.blogspot.com.
Right.
To be official. All right. I am going to get on the other side of the camera so Wendy can show us whatever she wants, and I am totally excited about that. So hold
Oh.
on to your hat.
So you don't care what we show first? You want to show fabrics?
Whatever you want to show.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Let me, while you're doing that, I'll take
Boy, I
these
hope
completely
that all...
out.
Here is Wendy's sewing room, her main space for all her creativity. Just wanted to show you her space before she shows us all of her goodies. Okay, Wendy.
Okay, we can, and I'm also very fortunate that my friends, quilting friends, make me quilts. These are all, this actually was Cindy Black, maybe this. My friend Barb, my friend Janet, Barb, Randy. So I keep them up here, but I'm going to show you my passion is vintage feed sacks.
Wow.
I keep the curtain up, obviously, for light reason, to keep the light away. But these are my colors. This is just, I love this. I love the 19th century too, which we'll see in a minute. But these are the early 20th century, and they're vintage. They're real.
Wow,
these were used to store flour, sugar, chicken feed, all kinds of things. So, and then we have also, oh, and other friends made. I know I'm such a fortunate person. These are also vintage feed sacks.
Wow, what a collection, huh?
Yeah. These are my reproduction. I have some other things in there too, but these are the reproduction 30s. And I use these a lot when I'm making Project Linus quilts or hospice quilts, because the bright colors are nice for hospice, or the infusion center where I go. I give a lot away too. And these are my real passion, the vintage cowboy.
Oh, wow.
Because I was quite a cowgirl in my day.
You know, I have always wanted, I call myself, well, a cowgirl wannabe. Like, I should have been a cowgirl. I've always wanted a pair of boots, cowgirl boots, but I've never gotten any.
Yeah, I just loved horses as a kid, and
I see one up there with your doll on it.
That was my horse. Yeah, that's why I didn't really. That was the only doll I had for a while, because she could ride the horse. Yes, but I was definitely in those days they said tomboy. They don't say that, use that anymore, but that's what I was. And I still love horses. For years, as an adult, I volunteered at a therapeutic riding place and helped children and adults with therapy needs. And
yeah,
so that's my 20th century fabric stash.
Lovely.
And
are we going in the other room?
I don't know if you can follow with that. You might have to. It's going to be dark in the way in.
Lovely quilt hanging on her door.
And that was made by my friend Sue.
Okay.
I don't hang up most of my
and look at her
quilts.
Horses up there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And you can see I'm a day behind on my calendar. Oh, yes. Happy May Day.
Yes, May Day.
Okay. It's a little dark
We're going across the hall to her.
I have small quilts here, smaller quilts there. These are my small pieces of fabric. I store anything half yard or less is stored by color. And you probably can't see that because it's so dark in here.
And are all those quilty books over there?
Those are all quilty books, and I have twice as many in another room. Yeah, every quilt book if you ever want to borrow a quilt book, I will probably, well, mostly quilt history. I should actually, I don't buy how-to or pattern books ever. So sometimes there are patterns in there, and this is the 19th century room, and it's full of,
you're fine.
Reproduction. These are all reproduction fabrics collected from my friend Cindy's shop over the years.
Cindy, who I've mentioned various times, the quilt shop, my favorite quilt shop that I used to go to, and just was so sad when I learned that she had closed.
She deserved to retire. She had that for over 30 years.
Yeah, it was such a special place.
It was a very, very special place. Yeah, I do see her not often enough, but I go up and visit every so often. So. Yeah. So that's those are the reproduction. I have at one point, I thought it would be a good idea to cut a 5-inch strip off every fabric that I purchased. So these are the 5-inch strips. They're almost 6,000 different prints in here. I know.
Wow.
I know.
That's so great. Oh my gosh.
If you faint, I'll just pick you up because it is overkill, I'm sure.
And are those all quilt ribbons?
Yep.
Wow.
This
Check
was
this
from
out, folks.
That was from one quilt.
All of those from one quilt?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my biggest winner because I shipped it places.
Will we see that quilt?
I could show it to you. It's in a box. But
wow. And how about those?
Those are just various quilts
different shows.
Showed in different places.
Wow, and there's more, folks. We are, whoops, I can't do it. Well, anyway, she is a quilting champion, clearly.
Well, woo! Yeah. I do love to quilt. I will definitely. I'm a pretty modest person mostly, but I will admit that I am a good hand quilter.
Ah, it's beautiful, beautiful.
And most of my awards are for hand quilting. Well, design too, I suppose, but mostly for hand quilting. I've won many best hand quilting ribbons.
Wow,
look at proud of that.
Wow.
Yeah, this is the back of
my
this. You asked me about designing my own quilts. This is one I did not design. This was a sew along. I can show you the other side. This is going in the Maine quilt show this summer. But
oh wow,
it's and these are all Dutch fabrics.
Wow, beautiful.
And this was a Quilt Mania magazine mystery quilt, and my friends and I were going to do it together. And I decided to do it in all Dutch fabrics.
Is it okay to touch?
Yep, absolutely. You can touch anything. And I did get her Susan's permission to Susan Smith, designed this quilt for Quilt Mania, and I did get her permission to.
Wow. Is this circle made like a yo-yo?
No,
it feels puffy.
It feels puffy because I almost always use wool batting when I'm hand quilting.
Yeah.
And I can show you how I put my circles together. I just take a template, which I hand cut template, and I do a running stitch, pull it, press it. It's pretty.
Kind of like a yo-yo, sort of maybe. You can show us if we have time.
Sure, I'd be happy to if you have time. And so it just makes them more accurate that way because you have this, it's pressed.
Yeah. Oh, the hand quilting.
But they pop out simply because the wool pops it out. It's the same with all these little designs.
Yeah. So a lot of it is echo.
This one is. I marked this. I don't like to use chemical pens, the markers. I will sometimes use them on a baby quilt that I know is going to get washed a lot, but I'm always afraid that the marks won't come out. Yeah. So I use a Hera marker, which is just,
those are great. Yeah.
And the only problem with those is you really have to mark a small area, and then because otherwise you have to remark everything because it wears out.
Yeah. Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, like that. So this bed is full of quilts.
Look at this. Look at this sweet.
Yo-yos. You mentioned yo-yos. This one has yo-yos. So
oh my gosh.
These are yo-yos in the centers of.
Wow. Now, I'm sorry. Did you say this was feed sack?
These are all feed sacks, all vintage.
Gosh.
Even the well, I'm sorry. The binding is not. The binding fabric. This is done in.
Wow.
What I call the pot holder method.
Yes, I'm dying to try that.
Well, I'm on my 41st pot holder quilt, I think.
Oh my gosh.
So I just tend to really like it. This quilt was actually last summer at the Iowa Quilt Museum. In my friend Julie Silber did curated an exhibition there, and it was on home and house quilt, and she asked for it. And so this is such a famous quilt. It's been to Iowa.
Look at that.
Isn't that wonderful?
Mean,
and that's simply a printed feed sack. It's a border print, which is a ruffle. Yeah. I just think it's absolutely
perfect for the house, for the roof.
Little ducky on the door.
It's so precious.
Feed sacks just make me smile. Yes. I mean, how can you not smile when you see these? They're just so much fun.
Oh my heavens, this is I am just blown away. Wow, there's a bee. Spectacular.
This one's hand quilted. I mostly hand quilt. I don't know. You can't possibly be here all day to see all these. There are 40 on here, but I did just have a group of
Another
friends
potholder.
who were interested in feed sacks. So we did most of the top ones are feed sacks, and this is one of my favorite feed sacks of all time, and I'm not sure why. I just love the
Yeah, I was
combination.
just going to ask you what about it?
I
What?
love the combination of the stripe and the little house on it. I just
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's absolutely adorable. Of course, you'll hear me say, and now this is my second favorite, and I really like this one. This is one. I just love them all. I mean, I love the
Oh,
sailors.
there's horses. She's got her
Yep,
horses.
the horses. There's
And
this
what's that there? Just
little kiddo. This one's great. Calling all cars. That was from the 40s, 50s.
wow.
Yep.
So fantastic.
They are so much fun. And then the front of this is simply just, whoops, it's upside down. But
Oh, so that was the back.
that's the back. Yeah.
Wow.
See, that's
people.
what's great about the potholder method. And I don't know if your viewers know, the potholder method is simply, this was made of 20 blocks. And by what I say by the potholder method, I mean that each block is individually quilted and bound and then whip stitched together.
Yeah.
And so, and the difference between just regular quilt as you go, where you put the two seams together and you do the back, the difference is a potholder quilt. If you took these apart, you'd have 20 individual quilts.
A standalone little quilt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can show you one that I'm working on right now. But this was so much fun because this was simply just letting the feed sacks do the work. I cut out the cars, I cut out the little guys. I love this one.
Yeah.
The little guy in the airplane, little cows in the field. I mean, just,
oh my word.
Yep.
Wendy, it's
something
fun. So fantastic.
And then I'll just do the ones I just.
So these are all upside down?
Yep, this is upside down too. This is the back, and this is
wow.
I don't know why this is upside down.
Oh my gosh.
This is based on a traditional, an antique quilt that I saw once in the quilt engagement calendar, like 40 years ago, probably. And I think they called it lollipop trees. But anyway, I sort of based loosely my thing on it and simplified it a lot. But these are all feed sacks too. Yep, it's just fun.
So this.
Yep, the block. See, it's bound.
Well, yes, binding. But how it comes to this little
because I whip stitch from the back. So say I piece this onto here, onto there. So I have a row, and then another row of them, and then along here. And when you come to the intersection, I give it some extra oomph so that you don't have a hole here when you piece it together. Yeah. The thing, and I also wax my thread for strength when I'm doing a potholder.
What do you use for wax?
100% beeswax.
Yeah.
It's I get it at now I can get it at Fiddleheads in Belfast.
Okay, and they don't curious about though. Okay, so this just looks like all right angles, but here it looks like arrows. Do you see what I mean?
It's all the same. So maybe it's the angle of what you're looking
at. Now when you lift it up, it looks less like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
basically
it's just
all that is. It's a mitered.
Yep.
Wow. And the way I do my bindings, I use single binding, never double. And I
for just potholder quilts or
everything,
all?
Everything. Wow. I've always done that since day one.
Even quilts for kiddos. And wow.
Absolutely. Okay. The reason I tell myself the reason is that what wears out first on your quilt? The binding. So if you have a double binding and it's really thick, first of all, I don't like that look. I like flat things, but
yeah.
So if you have a nice flat binding and you have a kid's quilt that your binding's all worn, you simply put another one on top of it. And it's done.
Okay, you are going to make me a convert.
Well, I can even show you how I do. Actually, it's on my blog. I do a sort of a demo. It's not a video. It's just pictures of how I put the bindings together because it does make a difference. You can imagine that if you don't have a crisp point at the edge of that you're going to have a hole here.
Right.
If it's rounded in any way.
Yeah. That makes sense.
You can fix that by adding yo-yos to your center. But not everybody wants to do that.
Yeah. Oh my.
So, yeah, we won't go through all. Although I will tell you, this is my latest finish potholder, which I did online with Taryn Faulkner. Her Instagram is Repro Quilt Lover. And this was the block, and everybody was just doing a square and a square, simple. But I did mine very differently. Set it together kind of wild.
That's a 12-inch block. Wow.
I think so. I think it's 12 and a half, maybe even. Because remember, when you have the binding, that say you have a 12-inch finished block, it's really going to finish 12 and a half because your binding is a 1/4 inch in, and so you're actually finishing the whole.
Horse.
Yeah.
Horse.
Yeah, these are all cheater prints that I have a lot of printed patchwork.
Every one of these is a cheater?
On the back of this one, yes.
Wow. Okay, because I was going to say, wow, that's a double-sided.
There, potholder quilt can be double-sided, and the interesting thing is some of my potholder quilts you can tell from the front. I'll use a different binding or whatever. Some you can't, unless you look at the back and say, "Oh, look, that's done." But I was going to just show you that I did do.
Look at the lovely scalloped edge.
I did do a Dear Jane. Do you know what Dear Jane?
Yes, yes.
In the potholder method.
Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So that's really, and that's been published in the Maine Quilts book. So she's been further. She's been more places than I have. I can tell you. Most of my quilts have been more places than I have. But
Wendy said she has 40 quilts on this bed. Is that
at least? Yeah. I counted the other day and I was at 42, I think, because I wanted to put all the feed sacks in order for my friends that came the other day looking for feed sacks. Yeah. Oh, this one's a lot of fun.
Embroidery.
These are vintage. We're upside down here. I can take them off, or we can go the other. No, you could turn the video upside. But these were just vintage linens, tea towels or dresser scarves
that you came upon that were already embroidered.
Yes, I did not do. These are vintage, probably from the 40s, 50s.
Beautiful. This is
I have
upside
drawers
down, folks, but you get the idea.
I have drawers full of those.
Wow.
And so I said, I'm going to use these. And
oh, how special.
And that's a potholder quilt as well. And that you can see all of these on my blog. I think these are all published.
I just love how tiny the cross stitch is.
Yeah,
there.
that
Look
one
at the
was a really
size
pretty
of my
one.
finger. Look how tiny.
That one is amazing. And of course, I chose this one because Reed is my last name. So
so sweet.
Yeah, and then you don't have to do squares or rectangles for potholder quilt. You can do strippy with strips.
Okay, wow.
I just finished that one. So
wow, so great.
Yeah, this is the same pattern as that one, just used toile instead of so I did.
I love toile too.
I do too. And then that was also cheater prints on the back. I have quite a few.
Love that one. I'm shocked to hear that, Wendy. Shocked.
I have a few. I must admit.
I love this little one here with the.
That was fun. I took ages and ages making that one because.
And look at the.
This one's published in a couple of different books. So.
I am such a fan of Appliqué, needle turn.
And that's a potholder as well.
Fabulous. And look at this sweet thing.
Yep. That has, almost 300, I think, different blocks. And that's a potholder as well.
I love it. I have some of that fabric,
I get a little crazy.
So great.
Yeah. I love that one. I call that one donut holes.
Her hand quilting is just spectacular.
And I think this might have been the first one that I did, and said, don't be afraid to do machine and hand in the same quilt. So these are all machine quilted. Okay. The little 9 patches are machine quilted. Yeah. And then the circles are hand appliqued and hand quilted. Yeah. So you don't have to always do one.
Has this been entered into a show?
Not yet. I just finished it, I don't know, a while ago. Yeah. You can only do 4 quilts in the show at Maine, and I don't do anywhere else now. So yeah. I mean, if I could drive something somewhere, I would, but I don't.
Oh, so great, so great.
Anything else? All my vintage fabrics are in here, and in drawers. And it's. I'm sure that my husband won't be looking at your YouTube channel, so. Otherwise, I would tell you more. He knows. He's a boat builder, so his hobby costs a lot more than mine. Even I'll do those later. If I'm doing a children's quilt in the pot holder, which I don't do very often, I will machine. I can show you one actually. I machine zigzag it together just for extra strength. They're pretty strong. Oh, I'll show you this. So this just shows
colors.
you. Yeah, these are all feed sacks, and this is going to go to the infusion center. But I just zigzag it, and it just makes it. And also, what I'll do is, so it's not a true pot holder, because I will also do a separate binding all around the edge instead of, so these blocks will have no binding on
just
this side.
three sides.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just adds a little strength. But this is good for when people are sitting in those chairs.
Yeah.
5 hours of infusion and something to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, so great.
Yeah.
It seems like such a gift that you're using your special fabrics.
It is
for
but
charity.
But I'll tell you, I'd be lost without the infusion center. So I feel like
it's your way of giving back, right?
Yeah, very fortunate. I also make like little kennel quilts for rescue animals. The animal shelters need things, to cover the bottoms of the crates for cats and small dogs.
And you use your precious.
I use my vintage, the repros for that. I don't use feed sacks for the pups. They don't care.
Wow.
They don't care.
The little tiny guy.
This is going for the auction this summer at the quilt show.
Look at that! Look at that beauty.
Yeah.
Oh, this is.
I have,
and I just love the tiny 4-patch.
I do too.
Could I see the back again? Sure. That is so pretty. And I love your hanging.
Yeah, this is real. Shirley Farnsworth showed me that years ago because I used to just do a whole corner, and she said if you leave that open, then it's much easier, because then you can put your dowel, tack it either there or in the middle. So it's even better.
I tend to do a strip here, leave a gap, and a strip there.
Yeah,
that's a nice technique.
It's easier. I'm all for easy peasy.
Ah, lovely, just lovely. This is a beautiful little applique.
And again, there's one that I'm doing online. This is designed by Barbara Brockman.
Love her.
From Kansas. Yep. And she does an online. This is her Civil War quilts blog.
I think I saw that, and it looked.
I started, and she started last month. So the next one was yesterday. I'm drawing it. That's about it. But I think hers are. There might even be 18 or 20. They're bigger. They're way bigger. I don't know what made me start so small, but I'm doing it smaller as usual.
Oh, lovely.
You can't seem to do things the right way.
I don't think there is any right way.
Well, I think that's why I don't follow patterns.
Let me show you this precious little jewel too. Look, here's my pinky finger to give you scale.
Teeny tiny.
There's another little baby there.
Oh, a friend of mine made that one. I didn't make that one.
So
if you want to see tiny, my friend Mary made this for me. Look how tiny that is.
Oh,
I mean, look.
Cute. So cute.
My friend Mary Harkins made that for me.
And did you make this?
Nope. My friend Kathy made it. I'm telling you, all the quilts in my store are from my friends.
Yeah.
I have a group called the Seven Sisters, and we meet. We meet once a